It's a case of presidential he said, she said. But today, one side got a little more backing when the woman at the center of the dust-up spoke out about exactly what she remembers from when the president called her about her husband, Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, who, as you know, was killed in Niger.
What he said was...
The president?
Yes, the president said that he knew what he signed up for, but it hurts anyways. It made me cry because I was very angry at the tone of his voice and how he said it. Like he couldn't remember my husband's name.
Trump quickly responded via Twitter saying, "I had a very respectful conversation with the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and spoke his name from beginning without hesitation." Last week, as you recall, General John Kelly jumped into the fray, laying the blame for the whole situation on Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, who brought the call to light.
It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought at least that was sacred.
But Kelly didn't stop there, going on to criticize Wilson's character and how she portrayed her role at the dedication of an FBI building.
And a congresswoman stood up, and in the long tradition of empty barrels making the most noise, stood up there and all of that, and talked about how she was instrumental in getting the funding for that building. Even for someone that is that empty a barrel, we were stunned.
Of course, video of that 2015 speech paints a very different picture, showing that at no point did she discuss securing funding, but rather praised others. When reporters asked the White House press secretary about the discrepancy, here's how she responded.
I think that if you want to get into a debate with a four-star Marine general, I think that's something highly inappropriate.
So where does this leave us? Joining me are former State Attorney General Martha Coakley. She's now an attorney and partner at Foley Hoag. Good to see you.
Hi, Jim.
And former U.S. Attorney Michael Sullivan, who was appointed by President George W. Bush. He's now an attorney at Ashcroft Law. Nice to see you, Michael.
Good seeing you, Jim.
Let me start with you. General Kelly, Martha, was seen as one of the grown-ups in the room. One of the people, remember when Senator Corker said the generals are what stands between the American people and chaos? It's now clear, I think, that he either lied or was told untruths and reported and repeated them. Should that trouble us, or are we making too much of this?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is, it just begs the question of what's going on. And if you're not in this country and you're watching this, as appalled as you have been to date, this is even more appalling. So for Kelly to try and, I think, fix what I think he may own, because he told the president what someone had told him when his son was killed, and yet Trump didn't do it very well. And also, you wouldn't say the same words to the wife of someone who's not in the military. Just totally ridiculous. But to do those personal attacks, that's just pure Trump. And now, to my mind, Kelly's lost whatever. He's lost a few stars of those 4 stars. And you shouldn't argue with a 4-star Marine if you're a Marine, but everybody else can argue with him.
Well, by the way, he's now a civilian chief of staff.
Exactly.
He's not serving as general. You know, I have to say, Michael, for even people I know in the media now who can't stand the president, had great respect for General Kelly, and they were really troubled. But not only the tone, as Martha said a minute ago, that's one issue, but the second issue is what he said about Congresswoman Wilson. I watched the whole video, as I'm sure you and everybody else has done. She didn't say anything like that. She spent her time praising the work of others, other senators, the first responders, the 2 FBI agents who died. So doesn't that damage his credibility, whether it was intentional or not?
Well, it may damage his credibility, but I wouldn't suggest he lied when he said it. He may have been misinformed.
Exactly,
I'm confident,
he may have been.
You know, that,
but isn't that troubling too?
Well, I'm
He's
sure
sent out by the president and with a crappy set of facts?
Well, when you say from the president, he was sent out by staff that may have not given him the full set of facts. I suspect that'll never happen again to Chief of Staff Kelly. I think if, in fact, he was misinformed, which I believe he may have been, it'll never happen again. He's a retired 4-star general.
He came back a la President Trump and said, oh, she said it off camera. So he responded when he was accused of misrepresenting it as if that made it any better. It wasn't accurate, and no one knew it. So
well, you can't say it wasn't accurate. If in fact she said it off camera, she may have said it off camera. I wasn't there, and you weren't there.
But nobody is confirming. It's one of nobody. There's nobody. I'm sure if they could find somebody who could confirm that they heard Representative Wilson say it, don't you think they would have produced that person?
It's a separate issue entirely from Congressman Wilson politicizing the call that President Trump made to a Gold Star
Congressman Wilson
wife.
was a mentor for the sergeant who was killed. She's not just like some distant, political hack. She mentored this kid from childhood.
If she, I suspect that she had a closeness with the family, but if she was concerned about how the president's message was received by a Gold Star wife, she should have called the White House and essentially told them, I'm sure the president's intent was right. He wanted to comfort a Gold Star wife.
Can we move on to something that actually troubles me more? I don't know how one rates the hierarchy of such things. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, this comment that I just played a minute ago is it's inappropriate to say things. I mean, other than the fact is we all know candidate Trump never missed an opportunity to trash a four-star general he didn't agree with. One of them is, you probably heard of this guy, Colin Powell. I was never a fan of Colin Powell after his weak understanding of WMD in Iraq equals disaster. We can do much better. But for her to be saying, even if he was still a general, that it's inappropriate to ask questions, is that not crossing the line in a big... she either has a fundamental misunderstanding of what the role of the press is, or was just cornered and had no idea what to say, right?
I think it's both.
What do you think?
Well, I think most people will probably ignore, her warning, including General Kelly. I'm sure Kelly welcomes, people essentially raising issues and concerns with him, whether it's something he said or something he's expected to do. I don't think General Kelly is concerned at all with regards to a confrontation.
One last thing about this. Chuck Todd from Meet the Press said to us on the radio the other day, one of the weird parts of this, if the President of the United States had just, after the confusion, initial confusion, had just called Mrs. Johnson back and say, I'm sorry for any confusion, he seems to lack an empathy gene, which I think, Michael, is pretty important in presidents, regardless of their politics. He just doesn't seem to have that, does he?
Well, people closer to him would argue that point. They'd say he is very empathetic and has been very supportive of a wide range of issues. And I agree with that point. But the Congresswoman could have advised the White House that the message was not well received.
And that it could have all stayed under wraps. Okay.
Exactly.
Can we move on to some of your former lives as prosecutors, you in a couple capacities, you in one there? Last week, two New York Times reporters spoke with Bill O'Reilly about their upcoming story about this $32 million settlement around harassment accusations. It was O'Reilly's sixth such deal and was finalized just a month before he got a 4-year, $25 million extension, each year, by the way, with Fox News. Early this morning, the Times released part of that recorded interview.
We have physical proof that this is bull. Okay? So, it's on you if you want to destroy my children further. All right? Because it's all crap. Why don't you be human beings once? This is horrible.
One of the reasons these deals are cut is because the alleged victim agrees not to speak about things. Does that preclude the likes of you in your former life or you in your former life from going after an O'Reilly? I don't know what the jurisdiction is here. Can a federal or a state prosecutor say, I don't care what Lease Wheel agreed to privately. I want to investigate whether or not he should be criminally charged. Can they do that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The fact that somebody enters into a confidentiality agreement or is part of a settlement, a confidentiality provision, does not preclude law enforcement, from trying to get evidence of a crime.
And so what happened, assuming you were nodding in agreement with Michael a minute ago.
Yeah,
so
sure,
what
you
is
can
likely...
send a subpoena. You can do that, and we don't know what the behavior was, and Michael would agree it has to be.
Non-consensual sex, which to me generally means somebody was raped, but I don't know that
Not
for a
just
fact,
harassment.
But that's the language.
Sure, it has to be criminal, which we agree.
But assuming it is, and obviously I shouldn't prejudge that in all fairness here, what is a responsible prosecutor doing right this minute after they heard whatever the appropriate jurisdiction is? Are they contacting Lease Wheel? What do you do in a situation like this?
This is the issue we had with young children and priests. This is the issue
Exactly.
that we have with women who are assaulted. We know that people who've been victimized by sexual assault don't need to be victimized a second time around by prosecutors who think they know better. Now, there are approaches that you say there's reasons to go forward for other people's safety.
Yeah,
but
well,
ultimately
for other people, meaning I'm also a taxpayer,
Sure.
and these prosecutions are in my name, and if he committed a crime, I don't mean this to show any disrespect to the victim of his behavior. I want him prosecuted. Is that not relevant?
It's a very difficult situation, as Michael and I know, state level, federal level. People who have been victimized need to be understood, and they need to be given some control over the situation. Obviously, you would give everybody the options to come forward.
But it won't preclude an investigation. It just might preclude a prosecution. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it may, but I think what you'd quickly do is you'd probably reach out to her counsel and let them know that the government has an interest in finding out the facts.
Let's hope they're doing that. Martha Coakley, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Jim.
Michael Sullivan, great to see you.
Thanks,
Thanks so
Jim.
much for your time, both of you.